And away we go. Episode 1148 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, September 4th, 2025, and we have arrived at NFL opening day, the start of the league's 2025 regular season. The Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles on the NFL's opening night, Thursday, September 4th at 8:20. And then 3 days later, the Commanders' 2025 regular season opener, home to the New York Giants this Sunday afternoon, September 7th at 1. By the way, we as Commanders fans should be rooting for the Cowboys on Thursday night, right? I mean, if we perceive the Eagles to be the better team and the biggest threat to our team to win the NFC East, then we want the Eagles to lose this NFC East game. So yeah, as much as we don't like doing this, we root for the Cowboys on Thursday night. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel natural. You may hate yourself in the morning, but you do what you have to do. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Coming up on the show, a lot for you on the Commanders, of them practicing on Wednesday afternoon. Next segment, discussion of the outlook for the team's 2025 season off the Renaissance 2024 season. Some really interesting comments from head coach Dan Quinn during his pre-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon on the approach to this season, how to handle expectations for this season, what constitutes a successful season, and more. The following segment, the first injury report of the Commanders' 2025 season, and conversation about the Giants' imposing defensive line, quarterback Jayden Daniels, and the Commanders' running back situation, off comments from Daniels and Quinn. We have a lot to get into. And also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. Believe it or not, the Nats and O's both completed 3-game sweeps on Wednesday. The Nats, they on Wednesday afternoon doubled up the Miami Marlins 10-5 at Nationals Park to complete a 3-game sweep. The O's, they on Wednesday won at the San Diego Padres 7-5 to complete a 3-game sweep. And during our Nats segment, we'll react to a notable front office departure for the Nats. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Nathan on an approach for Commanders general manager Adam Peters with player contracts. Writes Nathan, I was thinking about this before the Terry contract. If I'm a GM, I would never talk until the player says what is important to him in order of importance. Guaranteed money, AAV, length, bonuses, not being franchised. Otherwise, you could say be overpaying for AAV if the player only cares about guaranteed money. In Terry's case, it may be that he was more worried about being underpaid. With JD5, Terry may envision increased production the next 2 to 3 years and thus be more worried about the ceiling than the floor, i.e. guarantees. Thank you for the email, Nathan. The tricky thing with that approach for a GM is that a player and his agent might want to never let on what truly matters most to them in a contract, or the player and the agent may find it best to play things close to the vest. But yes, there is a larger point here that makes sense. Different players value different things, and if you as a GM can identify what the player truly values, then that can make getting a contract done easier. Negotiations between a GM and a player don't have to be combative and adversarial. Negotiations can be collaborative. I still would say this, though. What usually matters the most in an NFL contract, whether the player realizes this or not, is the money fully guaranteed at signing, because that's the money that the player absolutely 100% is getting no matter what. Practical guarantees, average annual value, incentives, all of that stuff is nice and has meaning, but what has the most meaning is the money that the team is paying you no matter what. The money fully guaranteed at signing. That money is coming to you regardless of injury, production, how you age, etc. Email from Redskins fan on the Commanders roster. Writes Redskins fan, how long, in your opinion, do you think a roster rebuild should take for the Commanders? Also, why do you think that they haven't signed some of the top free agents this year? With all of the ways that a team can build depth, it feels like we should be better. This isn't a shot at the GM. It's an honest question that you probably have more insight on. Stephon Gilmore was a player we could have gotten last year and is a free agent this year. He played well last year, and he is familiar with the defense as he played in Dallas. In a season, you never know when injuries occur. Amari Cooper was available. There are and were others. You have an idea of what I'm talking about. Thanks. I'll continue to listen. Well, thank you for the email, Redskins fan. Every free agent situation, of course, is different. Regarding why the Commanders don't sign a particular veteran free agent, the reason could be that they don't think that the player is that good at this point in his career. The reason could be be that they are turned off by the player's injury history. The reason could be that they think that the player wants too much money. The reason could be that they think that the player is not a good fit for the culture. All kinds of possibilities. The question of how long it should take for Adam Peters to rebuild the team's roster is interesting. There with the Commanders' rebuild really are two levels. Level one is getting the team to be good, and Peters did that in 1 year, thanks largely to taking Jayden Daniels with the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. Level 2 is getting the roster to be good, and that takes time. There really are no shortcuts to that because a truly good roster includes quality depth, and getting quality depth almost always takes time. You need multiple NFL drafts in which to do well. Peters has had just 2 NFL drafts as Commanders GM. In MLB and the NHL, it's really hard for a bad team to become good without the team's roster truly becoming good. In the NFL, there is a shortcut, and it's called quarterback. And if you have a great quarterback, he can make a team with a mediocre or even bad roster good. And we saw that last season with Jayden Daniels. Catering by Uptown. It provides catering to perfection. Whatever event you're planning, especially a wedding, visit cateringbyuptown.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you and see what Catering by Uptown can do for you. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It's run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style and thus takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. You know, for all of the talk about whether the Commanders' Jayden Daniels last season had the greatest rookie season by a quarterback in NFL history, what has not been talked about nearly enough is that Dan Quinn last season unequivocally had the greatest first season by a head coach in Braves / Redskins / Washington football team / Commanders history. Dan Quinn last season, his first season as Commanders head coach, joined Joe Gibbs, George Allen, and Ray Flaherty as the only head coaches in franchise history to win multiple playoff games. Not just in season number 1 or in one season, but overall. Dan Quinn last season, again his first season as Commanders head coach, joined Joe Gibbs and George Allen as the only head coaches in franchise history to win multiple games in a single postseason. Dan Quinn last season became the first head coach in franchise history to win 2 playoff games in his first season with the franchise. Dan Quinn last season led Washington to its first regular season with at least 11 wins since the 1991 regular season, 12-5. Dan Quinn last season, without question, had the greatest first season by a head coach in franchise history. But that was last season. What about this season? Week 1 of the NFL's 2025 regular season, Commanders versus the New York Giants at Northwest Stadium this Sunday afternoon at 1. Dan Quinn did a pre-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon. The majority of the presser was spent discussing the outlook for the team for the 2025 regular season. This was Quinn during the opening statement of his presser.
As we're gearing up for the season, to begin, my thoughts really have been, they keep coming back to identity. And as fun as last year was, I don't think an identity is fully formed in 1 year. And you add players and that, fully develops over time. But beginning this Sunday, it's about how we play. And I like to be bold and aggressive and be strong, in these winning time moments that we work. But that has to be constant, and we need to live it over and over as we're going through it. And so that's what I want to see this week, getting that identity together and how we want to get down all the time. And so I want to still this week see it, and every week from here after. But that's the one thought that keeps coming into my mind, through the camp and into the start of the season, and you just want to see that over and over. And so that was my one thought, and get rocking with you guys.
Team identity is a big thing with Dan Quinn. He talked about that a lot last season. He's already talking about that for this season. You hope that the 2025 Commanders have a lot of the same traits of the 2024 Commanders, but of course, you can't just assume that, and there are a good number of new players on the team. The last non-preseason game for the team, of course, was the NFC Championship game for last season, this past January 26th, the 55-23 loss at the Philadelphia Eagles. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between WUSA 9 sports anchor Chick Hernandez and Dan Quinn.
From the last game to now, for the head coach, has it been a long time, or did it go quickly for you in what you guys tried to accomplish here? From Eagles to now.
Eagles game, yes. Thank you for not bringing up the other ones, yes. Like most things, there's a process, that you want to go through to get there. And the after actions are important. You don't want to lose the pain of a game like that. So there was lessons that you wanted to take from it. You hear us talk about turnover margins so often that, maybe like, again, but it's such an important part of what we do. But then, Chick, it was about, we met after the season. I can still remember sitting with Adam and talking to so many players about coming back who were free agents. And I think that's when it clicked for me. I think you're just in the fight, but then it came to me, they want to be part of this. They recognize an identity started, and friends and family may have asked, like, how do you, replicate that or duplicate that, and ask questions. And you guys ask that question a lot too. But my response to them was, I don't want to replicate it. I want to build off it. And I want this to be the start of it. And that's why the identity piece, Chick, was so important for me, because it's the growing of it and the building of it. But it was probably in that moment after the loss, we met with the X number of players that were unrestricted free agents, and you could just feel that to come back. And so to Adam and his team to get so many of those guys back into the mix, then trades, then to that, it took a lot of time and effort to connect all the players. But it's been also a lot of fun to get to know some of these new guys. Like coaching Debo is fun, and Kinlaw and Will Harris, and getting to know Jonathan Jones, how thoughtful he is about playing and why he's been so good. And so I could name a number of guys, but those are just a few that come to mind. I love the draft part of an off season because you learn about the players, you learn what unique things they are, and then training camp is getting your team ready. So it's been a lot, but I think of it like in these bite-sized spots, this and then into this and then into this. And I don't think of it in the totality. When I was doing the free agency, I wasn't thinking about the draft, and draft I wasn't thinking about training camp. I just try to really stay in that space and live in it. I don't want to miss it.
I love that from Dan Quinn regarding last season. Quote, I don't want to replicate it. I want to build off it. End quote. How great was that?
I don't want to replicate it. I want to build off it.
Yeah, that's outstanding. That is the perfect mindset. Last season is done. Last season is over. The idea should be for the 2025 season to be even better than the 2024 season. I will never forget how somber General Manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn were at their joint end-of-season press conference this past January 27th. The presser happened just one day after that loss in the NFC Championship game. You could tell that Peters and Quinn took the loss hard. There was not a ton of big-picture perspective during that presser, understandably so. But the Dan Quinn who we heard on Wednesday afternoon provided the perfect perspective regarding last season. Quote, I don't want to replicate it. I want to build off it. End quote.
I don't want to replicate it. I want to build off it.
Exactly. So what does that look like? What is a successful 2025 season for the Commanders? We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between 7 News DC sports director Scott Abraham and Dan Quinn.
Dan, as you get this thing going for real on Sunday, what determines a successful season in your eyes?
Throwing a great first game, honestly. It's like so far away from me, like to think that far ahead. I just want to make sure as we're building our program here, man, identity, and to be that, you have to do a lot of things to sustain it. There's a certain attitude and way that you play. We're bold. We want to be aggressive. So we have to do all those things. And if we do them right and hit the markers in that spot, that will be a successful season. But I'm not into the comparing, of what was here, what's now. I had a blast doing it with that team, and now it's this one. And I don't want to look back and look forward and look back and look forward. I just want to absolutely go for it with this crew.
It never does an executive or a coach in sports any good to make specific declarations about what constitutes a successful season. But the truth is that the Commanders are trying to win a Super Bowl. They now are a win-now team. They, this past offseason, made win-now moves. And so, while I wouldn't say that the 2025 season is Super Bowl or bust for the team, I would say that the team is in a place that the team has not been in a very, very long time. Legitimate Super Bowl contention. Now, of course, we'll see how the season goes, but right now, going into the regular season, the Commanders, by a variety of measures, analytics, betting odds, general conversation, are in Super Bowl contention. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange with Dan Quinn.
You coaches and players, you work so hard every day in your careers striving to, win a championship. You guys got so far last year, the success you had last year. How do you balance, as for your players, going into the season, talking to them about, okay, we're capable of going the distance here, but we have to focus on the process. How do you manage, those expectations and going into a season like that?
Yeah, we really don't look too far ahead, and we have to stay that way. It's not that you have blinders on. I get that, and the expectations of things really comes from the outside. But if we're really going to be who we want to be, we're the ones that have to challenge ourselves to see how far we can take it or how high our standards can go. That's practice habits, that's technique, that's skill, that's a mindset, that's an attitude. So it's all of those things. So if we have to think that the season doesn't begin until January, we'll miss it. We'll miss all of it. And there's way too much fun to do. So we throw it 1 week at a time. And I know that's super cliche, but we really do try to live that way. Every team we go, it's going to be a matchup. And here it is, right? The first game, division game, had one that was a walk-off field goal and one that was within a one-score game. So when you play a division game, you're ready to get down right off the bat. And so I think it's kind of cool with the NFL. There's a lot of them this week, but it is even extra special, I would say, when you get to do it with the division team right off the bat and go fight for it.
Yeah, the Commanders' 2 games against the Giants last regular season. Last September 15th, a 21-18 win over the Giants at Northwest Stadium. Kicker Austin Seibert, in his first game with the Commanders, set a franchise record for most made field goals in a regular season game. He went 7 for 7 on field goals, including a walk-off 30-yard field goal. And last November 3rd, a 27-22 win at the Giants. A lot of NFL coaches talk about their team's regular seasons in terms of quarters. Now, that doesn't work as well these days, with each team playing 17 as opposed to 16 games each regular season, but you get the idea. The first 4 games of the Commanders' 2025 regular season are as follows. Week 1, home to the New York Giants this Sunday afternoon, September 7th at 1. Week 2 at the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football on September 11th at 8:15. Week 3, home to the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday afternoon, September 21st at 1. Week 4 at the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday afternoon, September 28th at 1. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between David Aldridge of The Athletic and Dan Quinn.
Dan, every season knits itself together differently, but first 4 games, I know you take it in quarters. What do you hope this group can kind of start to stitch together this first quarter of the season?
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. I agree with you that as the team's forming, you're starting to find what people's strengths are, what needs more development, and that's kind of the constant massaging. I think early on, I wanted to go only this way, and then you learn, no, man, like you have to navigate those as it goes. But going into the space, I want to make sure like our play style and attitude is right. The way that we cover kicks. I love this group, the way they can play and fast. I want to make sure our tackling is on point. I want to make sure we do the things, at the end of the halves and the end of the games that give us chances to win. So each week we talk about, what do we need to do to win this game? And it's not the same every week, but there's so much unknown in the beginning of a season that it takes a few times to really find roles, see where they go, and then develop into those roles, because it may not be what you had thought at, May 5th. And now that you're here in September, okay, this is where it's going to be, and now how do you really go nail those roles?
Again, this idea of team identity. What will the identity of the 2025 Commanders be? And so here we are, week 1. Now, remember what happened with the Commanders in last regular season's Week 1, a loss, a 17-point loss, a 37-20 loss at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last September 8th. How misleading did that game end up being? But Week 1 of an NFL regular season is a big deal, no doubt. We, on Wednesday afternoon, had this exchange with Dan Quinn.
Coach, you've been around the start of an NFL season many, many times, but what makes Week 1 still so special to this day, and how do you help prepare the guys for that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's awesome. And I think you're stepping out on that journey together. That's what Week 1 means to me. We all know that, there's a long season. We'll have lots of these, lots of games, but there is a stepping off point that, okay, it's time. And you felt that energy. It just happens, and you feel it in the building, you feel it in the room, and like I said, it takes a while for your team to really be who you can be, and the best of the best teams will be a hell of a lot better towards the end of the season than they are today. That's their skills, their execution, and we'll work hard to do that, but there is a fun time of doing something like, man, we've really put it in together, and let's step off, let's go into this thing together.
All right, here is an outstanding new book for you if you're a Washington fan, or for a Washington fan who you care about, RFK All Access by Scott Cunningham. Scott served as a photographer for NFL properties for years. He photographed the Redskins extensively during their glory days in the 1980s and early 1990s. Scott, via RFK All Access, has put together a compilation of his best Redskins photos, many of which are behind-the-scenes photos. Joe Gibbs, Jack Kent Cooke, Richie Pettibone, the Hogs, the Posse, Sonny, Sam, and Frank, all and so many more are featured in this book, which is 392 pages of glorious Skins history, 5 pounds of Redskins gold. If you are a serious Washington fan, if you are a Skins historian, this book is a must-have. Makes for a terrific edition. Tenny Skins-themed man cave. Also makes for a great gift. Heck, this is a book that has been endorsed by Joe Gibbs himself. Quote, "This is a great book filled with great memories," end quote. RFK All Access. You could get the book by visiting rfkallaccess.com and use the promo code ONLYAL for a special discount. That's rfkallaccess.com, promo code ONLYAL for a special discount. More now on the Commanders, off them practicing on Wednesday afternoon in preparation for their 2025 regular season opener, home to the New York Giants this Sunday afternoon at 1. We have our first Commanders injury report of the season. Now, Commanders injury reports soon will become commonplace, but for now, they are fresh and new. So we revel in the first Commanders injury report of the season. Tight end Zach Ertz, he did not practice on Wednesday afternoon, but due to rest, resuming the trend of him last regular season not practicing on the Wednesdays of weeks with a Sunday game. Receiver Noah Brown, he was a limited participant in Wednesday afternoon's practice due to a knee. Edge defender Dorrance Armstrong, he was a limited participant participant in Wednesday afternoon's practice due to a knee. Cornerback Jonathan Jones, he was a limited participant in Wednesday afternoon's practice due to a hamstring. Quarterback Marcus Mariota, he was a full participant in Wednesday afternoon's practice. He was on the injury report due to his Achilles ailment. And kicker Matt Gay, he was a full participant in Wednesday afternoon's practice. He was on the injury report due to illness. The Giants' injury report for their practice on Wednesday listed just one player, but a key player, left tackle Andrew Thomas. He was a limited participant in practice due to a foot issue. How are the Commanders on Sunday afternoon going to handle the Giants' defensive line, what is maybe the best defensive line in the NFL? Interior defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence, edge defenders Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter, who the Giants took with the number 3 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft out of Penn State. We, during Commanders head coach Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon, had this exchange.
Dan, you're a defensive line guy. What stands out about the Giants' defensive front?
A lot. And I think the speed, I really am impressed by that. I like the action. I like, their investment into that group. They've got, Dexter, who's got great size and power, and they got speed out on the edges. So I think probably the combination of the two is what I like about them. When you have 3 jets that you can use in different spots, you can try to create matchups to do that. And so I sense that's where they're headed, but it's a really strong group.
Yeah, the Giants' defensive line, massive test for the Commanders' revamped offensive line. But as we came to know last season with Jayden Daniels at quarterback, all things are possible. What is he going to do in the 2025 season off his all-time great 2024 rookie season? Daniels did a post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon. We, during that presser, had this back and forth between WUSA 9 sports anchor Chick Hernandez and Daniels.
Think back to last year at this very moment. How different is Jayden Daniels now, and how does that manifest itself? What do you notice that's different about you going into this season?
I would probably just say a year under my belt to know what I'm getting myself into with a week 1. Last year I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So first game, didn't know what to expect, but now you just go out there, you have a routine, preparation, and consistent. So, it's kind of what's different.
Having Terry and Noah working out with you guys now, I mean, that offense, it's an unfair question, but what are you capable of with this offense?
I guess we're going to find out on Sunday. I don't really have an answer. I just hope not hope, but go out there and execute at a high standard. That's the standard that we keep, and that's the standard that we uphold each and every day. Especially another year in the system. We know it. We're allowed to go out there and play fast and free.
Well, Jayden Daniels, during his post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon, had the chill Jayden Daniels vibe in full effect. Nothing phases this guy. We saw that time and again last season, and that was on display during this presser on Wednesday afternoon. Take a listen to this portion of the Jayden Daniels post-practice presser on Wednesday afternoon. You'll hear him take questions from Commanders insider Tom Shad of The Washington Post, Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN, and Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic. Here you go.
Hey, Jayden, there's a lot more kind of external expectations on this team this year.
Interesting.
You knew it was coming. What's the best piece of advice you've gotten from some of the veteran guys on the team about kind of blocking that out or managing that?
To be fair, they don't really tell me that because I don't pay attention to it anyway, so they're not really worried about me coming in and talking about what was said on ESPN. I don't really care.
Shout out to ESPN, thank you. Where do you feel you are most different, even going into the year compared to last year? Where are some things that maybe you're more prepared for because you have that year?
I think just like I said, my routine. I know what time to get there at the stadium, what to expect, warming up with time, and stay consistent with that. So I think that's probably where I'm most different.
Look at the Giants. What do you see, especially with that defensive front, some few pass rushers? What do you see when you look at them?
Defense that flies around, and week 1, everybody's gonna be juiced up. Everybody's healthy, so it's gonna go out there and it's gonna be a battle.
Going back to the external expectations, does the success of last year, does it add more pressure to you? I mean, I know you don't really feel pressure, but like, do you?
Nah. Me personally, no, not at all. You still gotta go out there and prove each and every year. People could have expectations. They could say you could do this or hope you fail and do that. I mean, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Is what the pressure you give is on yourself to go out there and you prepare the right way. You give yourself the best chance of success.
I know that a lot of athletes say that they don't pay attention to media coverage, don't pay attention to the noise, but I tell you, with Jayden Daniels, I believe it. He is so focused. He is very diligent. He keeps his eyes on the prize. I mean, if you are on X and you ever look at the Jayden Daniels X account, it's like the most boring X account for a superstar athlete. He rarely posts anything, and when he does, it's very benign. He is not at all consumed with social media or anything like that. He is consumed by that which is important. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between John Keim and Dan Quinn.
Jayden obviously had a big year, a lot to deal with in the offseason. Guys can kind of go different directions. How have you seen him handle all this, and how can that help him going into this year?
Yeah, you guys have been around him enough to know that he has a rare focus about him, and the best players I've been around have had that, through my years. And so I think he sees it more of like opportunity, John, to say, all right, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go find ways to improve and get better. And so that's what I see, throughout the off season with him, coming into training camp. But he just keeps this focus about him that is really rare. And the best of the best have that. And that's what he does not back off of that. And he doesn't look too far down the line, which I really appreciate. He just, we're going to throw a good practice. He just doesn't get too far, out over his skis. And I think that's one of the things I really admire about him.
Yeah, the focus of Jayden Daniels, unflappable. What might that mean for a second NFL season? Are we about to see him take another step? Are we about to see him ascend to being truly one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL? I think that he has a great chance of doing that. The Commanders on Tuesday afternoon released their unofficial depth chart for Week 1 of the regular season. The top 4 running backs were listed as follows: Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez Jr., and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So if you go by that depth chart, the man known as Bill, per the depth chart, is RB4, although I don't know that we should read too much into that. I would think that the team, at least initially in the regular season, will be going with a running back by committee approach. Perhaps someone emerges as the true RB1, but just think about what is on display with this unofficial depth chart. Jeremy McNichols is ahead of both Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Really? Is that what you think really, truly is the case? Remember, this is an unofficial depth chart. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between John Keim and Dan Quinn.
The running back situation, how do you feel like that can break down? I'm sure you don't want to give away all your plans, but just how do you assess that group going into this game?
Yeah, you loved having some versatility, with the group, and I think it's no big, secret what Austin can provide in space and getting the ball in that way. That's one of his superpowers. So as we're growing that, I think it'll take some time, John, to get into that space and who's excellent in what spaces and how do we do that. But I don't think that's in one game. But I do like this group. I really do. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. They all bring, some things to the table that's unique, special teams roles, offensive roles, and that's what I like about it. That's our job, to find the strengths and pull them out of these guys and see what they can do. And it's a fun part of the process of coaching, too.
Going to be so interesting to see how the Commanders' running back situation evolves as the season goes on. I was thinking about this. When is the last time that Washington went into Week 1 of a regular season without a clear and obvious RB1, like a true running back by committee approach? And the answer that I came up with was 2011. The Redskins for the 2011 regular season had 4 different running backs each start a game, but with no back totaling more than 5 starts. Now, some of this was due to injury, but there at no point that season was a true RB1 for the Skins. The 4 running backs: Roy Halou Jr., Tim Hightower, Ryan Terrain, and Evan Royster. But Washington, for every week one of a regular season since then, as best as I can remember, has had a clear and obvious RB1 until now. And then there's this. So one of the more interesting things from Dan Quinn during his pre-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon was about something called Mamba Time. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between Commanders insider Liam Griffin of the Washington Times and Quinn.
Morning, Coach. You referenced during the final training camp practice Mamba Time. Is that a phrase that comes from you? Is that comes from the players? And what is Mamba Time?
Sure. It is a specific game management time. So, we don't want to be in it very often, but you'd be down by more than one score. And so how do you get back in the fight quickly and then kick a field goal or try to get points before a certain time threshold, so then you don't have to rely on, at the end of the game, a score and an onside kick. So say you're down by 9 points, there might be a time at 2:50 that you want to go kick the field goal, kick it off, play defense, get it back. So it's a strategy that we have to put ourselves through. I think early on in my coach career, I didn't want to talk about 4-minute or losing or Mamba Time, but the hell with that. That's going to happen, and you want to find ways to go fight and be ready for it. But it was a term that we had come up with last year. I think it was Baltimore. We were in the space like that, kicked a field goal to the end, and so I think so many times we've all seen the offense keep trying to go down and score, and then there's 30 seconds left, the onside kick. We know the percentages aren't so good for that, so we just said that sometimes you may have to fight to get a score before the time threshold takes a hold of you. So that's what Mamba Time is.
All right, I really enjoyed that response from Dan Quinn. I'm assuming that Mamba Time comes from the Black Mamba, the nickname for Los Angeles Lakers legend Kobe Bryant. Dan Quinn is a big NBA fan, but whatever the origin, the idea of Mamba Time is so smart and is another example of Washington now being an enlightened team in terms of analytics and being forward-thinking and being prepared. The concept of how to properly handle being down by multiple scores deep in a fourth quarter, a concept that, of course, includes so many things, right? Play calling, clock management, situational awareness, of course, execution. That concept is a big deal. The Commanders in 20 games over last regular season and last postseason went 9-4 in one-score games decided by 8 points or less. A lot went into the team being so good in one-score games last season, but one of the factors was preparation. The team constantly practices how to handle a game in which the score is close or relatively close deep in the fourth quarter, and Mamba Time is an example of this. And by the way, a big Kobe Bryant fan is Jayden Daniels. So take a listen to this back and forth between Liam Griffin and Daniels on Wednesday afternoon.
Jayden, what does Kobe Bryant mean to you?
That's the greatest, my favorite player, but the greatest all time, in my opinion. My favorite athlete, I wouldn't say player, but just his embodiment of the work and, as I got older, the mentality. And, he was fearless, never flinched in those big moments. So you see it time and time again. You see why he was so successful and why he won 5 championships.
And how do you try to embody that now?
I say you just go out there and, like I said, fearless. You don't blink when times get tough. Adversity. I don't think I've seen anybody, rupture their Achilles and walk off the court and shoot 2 free throws. So he was built different, man, and he meant a lot in my household to me, growing up as a Laker fan, Southern California kid. So try to pick up some things, but in those moments he never flinched. The moment was never too big because he knew what he did at practice. He knew how he prepared, and he wasn't going to mess with anybody that didn't prepare or work as hard as him.
One of the things that Kobe Bryant's death in January 2020 really crystallized for me was how much people in, say, their teens and 20s looked at Kobe Bryant the same way that people of my generation looked at Michael Jordan. For me, Michael Jordan, that would be former Wizard Michael Jordan, is the greatest NBA player of all time. He is the GOAT. His combination of on-court significance and cultural significance blows away that of any other NBA player ever. But If you were not at least a kid in the 1990s, then you didn't experience peak MJ as he was in full effect. And so there is this Kobe Bryant generation, and Jayden Daniels clearly is a part of that. Hey, if you are a Commanders fan and you are on Instagram, make sure that you are following WSH on the Daily. The handle is at WSH on the Daily, and WSH on the Daily right now is conducting a Commanders jersey giveaway. The winner will be announced on Monday. Get in on this at WSH on the Daily on Instagram. WSH on the Daily provides outstanding daily Commanders coverage. The page is updated every day, always has a great fresh look. WSH on the Daily just started in 2021 and yet has well over 42,000 followers. You learn a lot by following WSH on the Daily. You are entertained quite a bit by following WSH on the Daily. If you are on Instagram, check out WSH on the Daily. The handle is at WSH on the Daily. So the Nationals have an off day on Thursday. Hopefully they are enjoying that off day because after Thursday comes a run of 14 games in 13 days. But the Nats went into this off day having just authored just their second sweep of a series of at least 3 games in MLB's 2025 regular season. Wednesday afternoon, a 10-5 win over the Miami Marlins at Nationals Park to complete a 3-game sweep. The Nats' only other sweep of a series of at least 3 games this regular season was a 3-game sweep at the Orioles this past May 16th through the 18th. The Nats in this regular season now are 56-83. Worst record in the National League East, second worst record in the National League. But the Nats have clinched, not tying the worst record by the team in a regular season since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. The 2022 Nats hold that record, 55-107. The worst that the 2025 Nats now can be is 56-106. Very good offense for the Nats on Wednesday afternoon. They scored 10 runs, totaled 11 hits, worked 3 walks, and went 6 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The 11 hits were 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 6 singles. And how about who hit 2 of the home runs? Nasim Nunez. The Nats this past Monday morning announced having recalled infielder Nasim Nunez from AAA Rochester. This is each MLB team was allowed to have 28 as opposed to 26 players on its Major League active roster as of September 1st. Nasim Nunez came into this game on Wednesday afternoon having never hit a home run over 127 career Major League regular season plate appearances. But he on Wednesday afternoon, as the Nats starting shortstop and number 9 batter, went 3 for 4 with 2 home runs and an RBI single. Amazing. Nunez in a Nats 2-run second had a 1-out solo homer to right field for a 4-0 Nats lead. And Nunez in a Nats 2-run 8th had a 1-out opposite field 2-run homer to left center field for a 10-5 Nats lead. Nasim Nunez is a charismatic guy. He was taken by the Marlins in the second round of the 2019 MLB draft. The Nats got him via taking him in the 2023 Rule 5 draft. And here he was on Wednesday afternoon smashing 2 home runs and an RBI single against the Marlins. It's too bad the attendance for this game was so bad. Official attendance was just 11,190. Lowest official attendance for a game at Nationals Park this regular season. But this was Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo during his postgame press conference on Wednesday afternoon on Nasim Nunez, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
Amazing. I told you, when he bring energy, he bring passion, and he bring excitement. I love the way he played the game, and he can change the game in the bases and defense, and he's exciting. You know, I'm glad that he's here, and it's awesome to see him perform today and help us.
How does Naz's energy impact the rest of the team?
You know, when you have someone that play the game the way he plays, it bring passion, it bring energy, it brings stuff that you need, you know, in a team. And, you know, like I say, that I'm glad that he's with us, and, you know, he's going to be playing a little bit.
You said you know he brings energy. Did you know he brings that kind of power?
No. No, but, he was swinging the bat good in AAA, and he was doing the little things, and, that was a really good game, and I'm very proud of him. He worked, he went to AAA, worked really hard, and now he's here, and, he's contributing and being a part of the team.
Yeah, very happy for Nasim Nunez. He's a fun guy, a fun player to watch, and 2 homers and an RBI single on Wednesday afternoon. The Nats' other home run in this game was by Brady House, who, yes, actually played, and he homered. He is the Nats' starting third baseman and number 8 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer, a single, and a stolen base. House in a Nats 2-run fourth had a 2-run homer to left field for a 7-0 Nats lead. As I have been saying, Brady House should be playing in every game or nearly in every game. James Wood, he is the Nats starting DH and number 1 batter, went 1 for 4 with a single and a walk. Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 2 for 5 with an RBI single and another single, though he did get caught in an attempted steal of second base. Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting second baseman and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 2-run single and went 2 for 2 on stolen bases, though he did commit a throwing error in the Marlins' 4-run fifth. More on that in a bit. And the Nats' new catcher, Jorge Alfaro, he is the Nats starting catcher and number 6 batter, went 1 for 4 with an RBI double, though he did commit a run-scoring pass ball. But overall, really good offense for the Nats in this game. Another major positive for the Nats in this 10-5 win over the Marlins on Wednesday afternoon was the bullpen, which remains on fire. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run unearned in 4 and a third innings. Jackson Rutledge faced 4 batters and got 3 outs. P.J. Poulin tossed 1 and a third scoreless innings. Mason Thompson allowed 1 run unearned in 1 inning. He in the top of the 8th allowed an unearned run as he gave up a walk and a double, and catcher Jorge Alfaro was charged with that run-scoring pass ball. But Shinosuke Ogasawara tossed a perfect top of the 9th with 2 strikeouts. Nats relievers in this series combined to allow 1 run unearned in 12 and a third innings. Nats relievers in the team getting swept by the Tampa Bay Rays at Nationals Park in 3 games over this past Friday through Sunday combined to allow 1 run in 11 and 2/3 innings. The negative for the Nats in this 10-5 win over the Marlins on Wednesday afternoon was starting pitcher Mitchell Parker having another disappointing outing. He allowed 4 runs, 2 earned in 4 and 2/3 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were a home run and 6 singles. He issued a hit by pitch. He did have 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw a lot of pitches, but also a lot of strikes as he over his mere 4 and 2/3 innings threw 91 pitches, 66 strikes, just 25 balls. So Parker tossed 4 scoreless innings, but he then in the top of the 5th allowed 4 runs, 2 earned on a home run, 4 singles, and a throwing error by second baseman Luis Garcia Jr., who continues to have a brutal defensive season. Garcia for this regular season as of games through Tuesday was tied for dead last among all players in the majors in defensive runs saved per Sports Info Solutions at -17. Now, Mitchell Parker had pitched well in his previous outing. The Nats' 4-1 loss to the Rays this past Friday evening. Parker in that game allowed 3 runs in 6 and a third innings with 7 strikeouts versus no walks. But Parker on Wednesday afternoon was at best mediocre, and Mitchell Parker now for this regular season, 28 starts, ERA of 5.87, worst ERA among all qualified pitchers in the majors, whip of 1.48, worst whip among all qualified pitchers in the majors. Also with this game, no Jacob Young. He did not play. He and the Nats 5-2 win over the Marlins on Tuesday evening as the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter went 2 for 2 with an RBI single, another single, and a stolen base, but he was removed from the game due to back spasms. And also with the Nats on Wednesday, we on Wednesday morning had reports that Nats Vice President of Amateur Scouting, Danny Haas, is leaving the Nats to rejoin the Orioles. The Nats on October 25th, 2023 officially announced the hiring of Haas as Vice President of Amateur Scouting. He had spent the 2019 through 2023 seasons as a special assignment scout for the Arizona Diamondbacks, so working in amateur and international amateur scouting. Haas worked for the Orioles in a variety of scouting roles from December 2011 through the 2018 season, so he's going back to a team that he knows well. 2 takeaways from the departure of Danny Haas from the Nats. A, him leaving would seem to be a function of him recognizing that massive change likely is coming for the Nats front office, regardless of whether the Lerner ownership group retains interim general manager Mike DeBartolo as the team's head of baseball operations beyond this season. This very much seems to be Danny Haas jumping at an opportunity for more stable ground. B, the Nats' hiring of Haas was part of the Nats in the 2023-2024 offseason revamping their baseball operations beneath then president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo, with whom the Nats on September 13th, 2023 officially announced as having agreed on a multi-year contract extension. This was such a strange deal, and I noted this at the time, that the Nats, in the middle of a rebuild, on the one hand extended their head of baseball operations, but on the other hand engineered major change to the baseball operations department over which the head of baseball operations presided. If ownership thought so little of the job that Rizzo was doing, why did he get that contract extension? The whole thing was bizarre, and sure enough, the Lerner ownership group this past July 6th, of course, fired Mike Rizzo and manager Davey Martinez. No game for the Nats on Thursday. Next up for them is a 7-game road trip beginning with a 3-game series at the Chicago Cubs. Game 1 Friday afternoon at 2:20. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 2:20. Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:20. Andrew Alvarez will be the Nats starting pitcher. At last, the Orioles have an off day. Thursday is the Orioles' first off day since August 20th. The O's on Wednesday wrapped up a stretch in which they played a game on each of 14 consecutive days, but the O's wrapped up that stretch with a 7-5 win at the San Diego Padres to complete a 3-game sweep as the O's, Joe Angel, were back in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 64-76. Worst record in the American League East, but a good series for the Orioles offense. The O's over the 3 games totaled 17 runs. So the O's on Wednesday scored 7 runs and could have scored more. The O's totaled 8 hits and worked 8 walks, but the O's went just 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position and struck out 12 times. The 8 hits were 4 home runs and 4 singles. The O's in a 6-run third hit 3 consecutive one-out homers off Padres starting pitcher Nestor Cortes Jr., who was one of 3 Rule 5 draft picks by the O's at the 2017 winter meetings. So Cortes in this game gave up 4 home runs and allowed 6 runs in 2 1/3 innings. So the 3 consecutive one-out homers by the O's in their 6-run third were a 3-run homer by center fielder Colton Cowser and solo homers by first baseman Kobe Mayo and catcher Alex Jackson. You know, as poorly as this season has gone for the O's, they have been good at hitting home runs, 170 homers over 140 games in this regular season. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 7-5 win at the Padres on Wednesday was Cade Povich. He did struggle. He officially allowed 4 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 5 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 85 pitches, 48 strikes, 37 balls. But the Orioles relief pitching was mostly good. 3 Orioles relievers officially combined to allow 1 run in 4 innings. Keegan Aiken officially allowed 1 run in 2 innings. He, in the bottom of the 7th, gave up a leadoff homer by Fernando Tatis Jr. to center field to cut the Orioles' deficit to 7-5. The homer went a projected 414 feet per StatCast. Sean Dubin tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th with 3 strikeouts, and Yennier Cano tossed a scoreless bottom of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts for the save. No game for the O's on Thursday. Next up for them is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the National League West leading Los Angeles Dodgers at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Game 1 Friday night at 7:05. Dean Kramer will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday night at 7:05. Trevor Rogers will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And by the way, Rogers on Wednesday morning was named American League Pitcher of the Month for the month of August. Well-deserved. He is the hottest pitcher in the majors right now. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:35. Tomoyuki Sagano will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Friday's show, episode 1149. We'll have much more on the Commanders. In-depth preview of their 2025 regular season opener, home to the New York Giants this Sunday afternoon at 1. Also on Friday's show, I'll talk college football week 2 of the 2025 season, as we this weekend have games for all 7 of the FBS teams of the Mid-Atlantic region. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
I don't want to replicate it. I want to build off it.